name is Fraser Simons. This is my channel, Springboard Thought. Today I'm going to do a recent reads. I will be retreading a little bit of ground with the Booker selections, but just very shortly what I think of them and move on because I have individual videos for each of them already. The first book that I want to talk about is Less is Lost by Andrew Sean Greer. I did this via NetGalley on Kindle as well as audio. Same narrator from the first book if you've tried it before. I thought he was really excellent at bringing out the hyper empathy, I guess, of the book. There's some qualities of this that match the Elizabeth's route, I think, where everybody just has foibles and issues that they're dealing with, but they also don't feel overly judged or made to be really sympathetic towards, I think, is how you might think of the character work. In this book, it is a follow-up from the first one, which makes it hard to talk about because there's a specific ending that happens that might be surprising to some readers. For me, it was. This book was a 3-star read, as was the first one. So I found it essentially exactly on par with the initial book, which is a very fond 3-star book for me. I mean, it's a Pulitzer winner. It had a lot of expectations. A lot of people talk about, you know, the twist already. It's hard for a book that acclaimed to get a 4-star mark from me because that would mean it exceeds my expectations. So meeting the expectations of a Pulitzer Prize thing and the associations that brings is a pretty good mark. This is more of the same. He is with his partner. He has a financial matter to take care of, which would involve spoilers to explain. And so again, he's on like a whirlwind tour of trying to get paid for doing all these different things. It's very comical, more so than the first one. Like, it's even more based on humorous meta associations for the author, because he has written, Arthur Less has written a book with acclaim that is ostensibly the first book, but then needs to go on tour as a, you know, sort of B-list author again still, to peddle up some cash. At the same time, his partner is got something else going on, and so there's like a schism that is created. And it's kind of, again, satirical for their relationship, because Less is kind of an oaf, kind of bumbling, kind of not got his shit together, basically, just like in the first book. And that means that if he was to have a really good discussion with his partner, probably all of those obstacles could be assuaged quite quickly. But because he's on this tour in America, connecting with the partner, especially in a meaningful way, is very difficult. I thought it was very charming. The ending is not as punchy as the first book. How could it be? But it was very pleasant to revisit Less in particular, but other characters and the character work that, like I said, feels kind of Elizabeth Stroudy, who I hadn't read before this book. Or before the first book, rather. The next book I want to talk about is The 7 Moons of Maali, Almeida. I have a book review out for this already. I give it 4 stars. It's about a man who is murdered. He becomes a ghost and he's trying to solve his murder. He has 7 moons to actually move on. And it's about this weird spiritual belief system, Buddhism, that is like bleeding together in order to enable him to try to get some justice, but also there's a clock running out. It's highly political. It's about the genocide that was occurring in Sri Lanka, and he is a photographer who is trying to, blow things wide open, and he has like, what's it called? A safe plan or whatever. Like, should he be disappeared, certain things go in motion, and that is also happening, but he has some amnesia and doesn't realize that. So there's some darkly comical elements at play as well. I thought the ending was predictable but poignant. I thought it was good. Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimer. I have another review of this out already. Easily 5 stars. I talk about this with Shelley Swearingen, but everything about it I absolutely loved. I did this on audio, however, which made it more of a ride experience. I was just going along. I don't think I retained all the pertinent details in my head. I was just allowing myself to be swept away. The second time I read it, because I definitely will revisit it, it's a favorite of the year so far, I will be reading it physically, and we'll see how that experience goes. I think I'll be able to form a lot more salient critique or be able to handle the structure in a metacognitive way, whereas now I've just been like, this was fantastic. I can kind of see what the structure was doing, but not completely, just because I was not visualizing it, literally. So, yeah. Next, with Gem of Books, I buddy read S, a novel about the Balkans by Slavenka Drakulić. This was a fantastic book. At the beginning, it warns you that it's very graphic. It's the story of the Balkans. It's about a woman. Every character's name is abbreviated to a letter. And that, to me, made it more personal, because rather than having a foreign-sounding name, you could insert whichever to it. Everyone knows a person with the first letter of a specific name. And so, yeah, it just had like a confluence of associations that was really effective. It is third person, yet very intimate, and that also didn't allow you to sort of disassociate from what was happening to her. And truly, some of the worst things that I've ever read about happened to her or other people, and how they deal with it is both commendable to like how humans can adapt, and also the most terrifyingly sad, horrifying stuff that you will ever encounter. So just prepare emotionally if you want to read it. It's very short, it's very quick, like highly readable, in other words, and excellent diction, punchy. Every character is just very well realized. It probably is based on specific nonfiction accounts of what's happening, I'm assuming. It's spectacular. It's a 5-star read, for sure. We read this over the course of a week or so, and I think I would probably prefer to, if I do reread it, and I probably will in a few years' time, do it in a single sitting instead of kind of coming to it every day in the evening time. Yeah, or I don't know, maybe pacing it out like that helped. I'm not too sure. Then I read These Violent Delights by Micah and Nemerever. This was an audiobook that had really good narration, but I also have a physical copy. And because I found For All the Tea in China, it also means that These Violent Delights went missing, because I'm always missing a book that I'm trying to review, basically. I put it aside somewhere to probably help me prep for this, and then it's probably somewhere directly in my line of sight right now, and I can't even pick it out. But maybe next video it'll be somewhere. Regardless, it is about 2 college students. It's queer. Both of them are questioning, at the very least. They develop into a very toxic relationship that is both codependent, loving, and also feeds into different traumatic responses that they had to their own queerness and their socioeconomic standing. One's rich, one's poor. They both interpret the world very differently. And the narrator, I think it's very important to know, is an unreliable one and articulating a very different view, I guess, of certain revealing characteristics of what is good and bad, I guess, politically. Eventually this turns into a sort of like murder mystery type situation, and you're in the head of someone who's really paranoid, very intelligent, very not trusting. It's very suspenseful, tense, well written, not exactly, I would say, still quite commercial in its prose, though I think it's classified as literary. I wouldn't go that far, though I think the characters and the characterization is quite good. It spends a lot of time doing kind of particular redundant plot beats, and I think it's meant to ramp up the suspense, but it gets rather annoying during the middle book syndrome type sections. It really wants you to know what their dynamic is over and over. They have the exact same fight over and over, and then the stakes continue to raise and raise and raise throughout it. I gave it 4 stars. It definitely exceeded my expectations. I saw this on a Literary Princess's channel, and she recommended it, and I'm very glad that she did, because it was fantastic. I found it in a bargain bin later. The audiobook pairing for it was really good. It's kind of dark brain candy, I guess, is how I would classify it. That's the week in reading. I think I'll stop there. It feels like it's been 15 or 20 minutes, which usually means it's been 25 minutes, so we'll see how I did. Comments are welcome as usual, and I will see you next video.